Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. I make videos every Mondays about health, wellness, and sustainable living. If that sounds like your sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So today we're talking about lupus and hair loss. And I wanted to talk about this because it's a sensitive subject and it's a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you're a woman. And unfortunately, it is a common thing that most of us lupus patients go through. So I think, it's important for us to make room for the things that make us uncomfortable because we are surviving it. We are making it through it. We are still here and we're still living, we're still growing. It's good to normalize some of these things so that, maybe they can make us a little less uncomfortable in the future. It doesn't have to be something that makes us uncomfortable. It could just be something that is, if that makes any sense. So let's talk about it. Before I was diagnosed with lupus, I experienced a lot of hair loss. And honestly, that was one of the first symptoms that I had, that come along with being tired. It was also the hair loss. It was the hair loss, the brittle nails, and, the weight changes and the exhaustion. So all of that came at the same time. But the hair loss, for some reason, really hit me hard because that was kind of like the physical manifestation of my suffering and my pain. It was a visual reminder that something was wrong and I didn't know what it was. And it was very drastic. I went from having very long hair to my hair gradually falling out and falling out and falling out to the point where it wasn't worth trying to maintain it anymore. It was easier to just cut it and let it go and just accept the reality that, something is happening to my body, and because of that something, my hair is just not staying. It was very, very hard. I talk about it as a matter of fact, but emotionally it was very, very difficult because, as a woman, a lot of us take pride in our hair. We just do, especially as a Black woman. It is a big part of our identity. It's not just our identity, it's also our mother's identity. A lot of us grew up with mothers that had rituals around taking care of our hair. Our mothers had specific days that they set aside to wash our hair and style our hair. And our mothers invested so much of their heart and love and time and energy into our hair. And it's not just our pride and joy, it's their pride and joy too. And when we're finally able to take care of it ourselves, it's kind of this big emotional separation with us and our mothers. Hair is such a big deal in the Black community. Hair is a huge deal in the Black community. It's more than hair. It's about our soul. It's about our hearts. It's about our love. It's about our connection. It's about our moms. It's about all of the love that they poured into us. So to watch your hair fall out gradually in clumps, and to have hair that's down to here, and then down to here, and then down to here, and here, and here, and then suddenly to not have any more hair is very hard. And I think part of it too, in addition to it being specifically a Black thing, it's also specifically a woman thing because our society associates long hair with femininity. And if you happen to be a feminine woman like myself, and you happen to like feminine things, this idea of not having long hair and having shorter hair is very hard because it makes you feel like you're masculine. It makes you feel kind of a man, you look a little manly, there's some of that. It makes you feel like you look manly. And if you don't like looking manly, then it's really upsetting. I don't know how else to explain that. It's kind of like when your outside doesn't match what you feel like on the inside. I'm not saying it's exactly like gender dysphoria because I've never had gender dysphoria, so I'm not even trying to pretend to know what that feels like. But that's the closest description. It's suddenly you look in the mirror and the face you're looking at doesn't match the soft and sensitive spirit that you carry inside. I feel very feminine, and I like to look feminine because that's how I feel. But when you lose your hair and you have to wear like your hair bald and it wasn't your choice, it's very different from when you choose to cut your hair. You know, it's like suddenly you're forced into a look that you're not really vibing with, that you're not feeling. Like, this is not your, that's not your vibe. That's not what you're into. So both on the black level and on the woman level, it is very upsetting, you know, and it was quite gradual. You know, it was like thinning out, and all of a sudden, like, it was just like shorter and shorter and shorter. And, you know, like I said, I had to get to a point where I had to like make peace with it. And it was very hard. Like, I cried about it a lot, because, you know, every time I looked in a mirror, like, I was reminded, like, oh, you're sick, you know. And who wants to feel that? Who wants to feel like their essence is leaving them, and their body is changing, and every time they look at themselves, they're reminded that things are different, but not a good different, like a scary different, like a different that they have no control over, a different they don't understand, a different that they don't know when it's gonna end, when it's gonna change. It's not an exciting, like, yay, let's have fun different. It's not that kind of different. It's like a scary, like, whoa, what is this different? And what's happening? And unfortunately, you don't have answers at the beginning, especially. You know, it took a long time for me to accurately get diagnosed, not as long as it normally takes, because most people, it takes them on average 7 years. So in that regard, I'm really blessed. Very, very blessed, because, you know, as soon as my doctor noticed something, right away she set me on the path to get diagnosed accurately. But it still took a while from the time I started having symptoms to the time I actually went to go see my doctor. And during that time, I was having a lot of these symptoms. If there's any piece of advice I can give you, is if you're a woman or a man or whatever, or a black woman specifically, and you're noticing hair loss or alopecia, don't always assume that it's something to do with hormones or it's something to do with food. It's always good to go get checked, so your doctor can at least look at you and tell you for a fact that there's nothing else going on with you that's a little bit more deeper, more serious. You know, we hear the word alopecia thrown around a lot, especially with, you know, with the Oscar situation with Will Smith and Jada. Like, it just kind of put that conversation on a national platform where people suddenly were talking about alopecia that may have never talked about it before. And, you know, I just, you know, if there's anything that I want this video to do, is I just want to put it out there that, you know, a lot of times, you know, what we consider alopecia may actually be something else, and you're not going to know what's going on until a doctor can tell you it's not anything else that's more serious. When my symptoms started, my doctor actually thought that I had cancer, because that's what it looked like to her. You know, because my white blood cell count was off, my hair was falling out, I was losing weight. So a lot of the similar symptoms that you would expect from a cancer patient. So at first she sent me to a hematologist, because that's what she thought was going on. She didn't come out and tell me, but she was like, oh, I think you might have some sort of a blood disorder, so I want you to go see this hematologist. And I went to go see him. He did some tests, and he ruled out cancer. So he goes, you don't have cancer based on my analysis. So yay, no cancer. So then he sent me back to her, and then she's like, well, if it's not cancer, then it's definitely autoimmune, so I want you to go see a rheumatologist. And that's how I ended up getting diagnosed. So I say all of that to say it's always good to be cautious and to take the time and to make sure that it's not anything more serious before you assume it's just alopecia, or your hair is thinning, or you just need a little bit of oil here and a little bit of oil there to make it grow back. Maybe sometimes the issue is a little bit more biological, and you just need a doctor to tell you that it's not, before you assume that just a topical on your scalp is going to be all that it is. So that's basically my experience with hair loss as a lupus patient, as a person living with lupus. Have you experienced any hair loss? Not all lupus patients do, but quite a large percentage do. So leave your comments in the box below and let me know what has that part of lupus been like for you. I'm curious to know what some of you guys out there are experiencing, but you already know what it was like for me. And if you have any specific questions about that process for me, feel free to ask. I'm happy to explain anything further that you need explained. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in any health, wellness, autoimmune content, lupus specifically content, as well as sustainable content. I drop videos every Mondays on those topics, so you can subscribe. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to check out any of my sustainable fashion pieces, you can do so at styledunder.com. And you can follow me on social media at styledunder25. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Au revoir!